In this video, we're going to go through a quick overview of Notion automations and how they work. There are 3 ways that you can add Notion automations to your workspace natively. The first is on the database itself, either by clicking on the lightning bolt or clicking on Settings next to New, scrolling down under Database Settings and clicking on Automations. When there is an active automation, this grayed out lightning bolt will turn blue. The next way we can add an automation is by adding a button property to any database. So if we click on Add Property, we would go to Button, and from here we can edit the automation. In this instance, the trigger will always be when the button is clicked. And the third way is to add a button to any section of any page within our workspace. To do this, we do / search for button, and here we can configure our automation. Again, when it's a button, the trigger will always be when the button is clicked. Now on this page, we have 2 demo databases. We have projects and tasks, and we're going to use these to go through a few different example automations. Let's start with a project automation. Here we have project, type, and team. Let's say we wanted to create an automation so that every single time the type was set to market launch, we tagged specific team members in here. To do this, we'll come up to our lightning bolt, click here, and we'll call this Set Team for Market Launch Initiatives. So whatever you name it, you want it to be easily identifiable. Underneath that, you'll see for all pages and projects, if we click in here, you can see you can either apply an automation to an entire database or a specific view within a database. So we're going to select the entire database. And then if we click on trigger, you'll see there's a few different options. It can either be based on a specific event, such as any property is edited when a page is added, or it can occur on a regular basis. So if we click on every, you would select your base frequency. And then from here, it will open up to more options. Now, the other option is when a specific change is made to a specific property on a database. So in our case, we're going to say when the type is set to market launch, select done. That's going to be our trigger. We then want to take an action. And you'll see there are a number of options here. We can edit specific properties, add a page to either this database or another database within our workspace. We can edit pages within a specific database. This one is a little bit tricky. We want to be quite confident with Notion automations before using it because it's quite hard to reverse any changes accidentally made. We can send notifications either to specific people or to people mentioned in a specific person property. We can send an email through Gmail, send a webhook if we're using external automations. We can also send a Slack notification to a specific channel if this is connected. And if we need to, we can define variables, again, used in more advanced automations. We're going to start off basic. We're going to edit a property. And we're going to change team. We're going to say whoever triggered it, plus I'm going to tag myself as well. And you'll see here you can replace with, add, or remove, or toggle on or off. We're going to add, select done, and enable. So now you're seeing that lightning bolt is blue. And if I add a new project, we'll call this Greece Market Launch. We'll change the type to Market Launch. And now if we wait a few moments, you'll see that's populated with me in here as the team. So that is the first way we can add automations. Now let's look at the second way. We'll come down to tasks and we'll add a button automation here by adding property, selecting button, and then click into the title to then change the name. We'll call this task complete. And then we're going to select edit automation. And our trigger is when the button is clicked. What action do we want to take? And here we're going to say when this button is clicked, we want to edit 2 different properties. We want to change the status to complete, and we also want to change the completed date to either the date triggered or the time triggered. So we're going to do date triggered. Hit save, and now we're going to add a new task in here. We'll give it a due date, we'll give it an assignee, and right now it's set to not started. But if I click on task complete, you'll see it automatically has changed the status to done and it's changed the completed date to today. If we click back into this automation now, you'll see that there are a number of different actions we could have taken here. So we could have edited the property, that's the one we went with. We could have added a page to another database. Again, edited pages, sent notifications, sent mail, webhooks, showed a confirmation, which really says, are you sure you want to take this action before you take it? And that just stops any mistakes happening. You can open a page or a form or a URL. You can send Slack notifications. And again, you can define variables. So you could send a Slack notification to a specific channel and let people know that this task has now been completed. Now, the third way we can add automations is using a button. So if we do /, we'll add our button automation in here. And we're going to call this one New Product Launch. And we'll say when the button is clicked, what we want to do is add a page to our projects database. So here we'll search for the correct database and we can give it a title, but in our case, this is going to change with every new launch. So I'm going to leave that one blank, but I will edit some other properties. So let's edit the team. And again, let's say I am always working on product launches. We'll tag me in here and we'll change the type to product launch. We'll select done. And now if I click on new product launch, it's going to add that to our project database. So those are the 3 different types of Notion automations, a good place to get started. Before we look at a more advanced example, let's connect our projects and our tasks database. So I'm going to add a new property, select relation, and I'm going to link this to my task database now. Make it a 2-way relation, and now these 2 databases are connected. Let's say our product launch is a Notion workspace for now. And if we go into our tasks, we can then connect this task to our specific project. Now these 2 are connected and you're seeing them linked in both places. So why is this helpful? Because we can use these relations within our Notion automations. Let's say that every time we have a product launch, there's a specific set of steps that need to occur. So tasks that are going to happen every single time. Well, we can set up an automation to say that when we add a project and it is set to product launch, we automatically add the tasks to the task database and link it back to the correct project. To do this on the database itself, we're going to click on our blue lightning bolt to add our new automations. We're going to add a new automation here, and we'll call this Add Product Launch Tasks. So our trigger, again, is going to be when the type is changed to product launch. We'll select done. We want to add some tasks to our task database. So here we're going to select add page to, and we'll select our task database. And now we can decide what properties we want to edit when we add this page to tasks. So we have task, we have due date. That's a variable. I'm not always going to know it, so we'll leave that one blank. Assignee, maybe I always know who the assignee is. Status, we don't need to change that. And then you'll see here we have a relation to projects. And if I click on this, I can say that I want to set the project to the trigger page. And so by doing this, we can automatically connect the task to the correct project. Now you'll see I haven't filled anything in here. I'm just going to leave this as my template because then I can click on the 3 dots next to it and I can duplicate this. So let's say there are 3 different tasks that are added. Once I've duplicated it, I can start filling in the key information. Maybe we do choose product name, design product packaging, and complete user testing. These are just examples. And again, if you know the assignee, you can tag them in. So I'm just going to select me for one of these, but leave the rest blank. And now we have an automation set up to say that when we add a new project and it is set to product launch, we want to add these different tasks and tie them to the correct project. If I select enable now and we add a new project, let's say we are launching a new product called Soulmate Finder that helps you find your missing socks in life. We'll click on type and select product launch. So now, as you can see, it's added our 3 tasks to our task database, connected it with the correct project, And where I've added in certain information like assignees, it has populated that as well. This is a really great way for us to define our processes and then bake them into our Notion workspace through automations. So instead of having to configure every task every time, we can just have it automatically populate based on a specific trigger or a specific click of the button. Because button automations work very similarly to database automations, the only difference is we have a few more triggers when we look at our database automation. Now, this works really well as a starting point, but let's say we did know the due dates for each of our tasks. Maybe it follows a certain timeline. Well, we can add that into the automation as well. It just requires using some Notion formulas. So if we click on our automations again, go to our Add Product Launch Tasks, and now we're going to include the property due date. Let's say this first task is due 7 days after this automation is triggered. We can click into due, select custom formula, and then here we would select date triggered. And to add our 7 days to this, we want to select date add, and within these brackets, we want to add the number of days. So that would be 7 days. So I'm going to do 7, comma, and then within quotation marks, I'm going to add days. So we're saying whatever date this automation is triggered, we want to add 7 days to this, and that's when it is due. Great. So we'll click save. And then let's look at our second task now. If we click on due and we do our custom formula, we could follow through the exact same step. Let's say it was due 14 days into the timeline. To do this, we'd have date triggered, then our date add, and we'd select 14 days. The other way we can do this is by selecting page added in step 1, selecting due to target the due date, and then from here, we use our date add option. We can always scroll down if you don't know the exact way to type it. We'll select date add, click into these brackets, and instead of 14 days, we're only adding 7 days because it's based on step 1, not based on the initial trigger. So we just need this to be 7 days after step 1 is complete. And then for our third task, we'd go into custom formula and we do the exact same thing, except this time we're targeting the page added in step 2. So we're only going up a level and then looking at that due date and then adding the dates from there. So this time, let's say this is 10 days after. We'll hit save, and now we have our automation configured with due dates. So if I click done and we add a new page now, we'll call this new invention our glasses GPS. Set it to product launch. And again, it's added in our different tasks, but this time we have our different dates in here. If I come over to sort and I sort by due date, I'll drag my project along. You'll see that our first task is due on September 4th, so 7 days after to date. Our second task is due 7 days after that, and our third task is due 10 days after that. Now, this is just one example of how Notion automations can help us operate more consistently and efficiently. We just have to configure this one time and the rest is going to happen automatically based on our trigger. And again, like I said, button automations work the same way. If we click on our gear icon, we could always add our project as new product launch and then go in and add additional steps such as add page to tasks. And in here, we would also be able to connect it to the project because we've added the project as a step. So you would go through and you would configure this, except you would do it on the button rather than on the database itself.